Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, we're going to look at the week just gone by. Some of the issues we'll be looking at: Parliament disposing of the PAC report. This week, the report into the controversial compensations was disposed of by Parliament. A decision on the fate of Central Bank Governor Mushabe and some officials from the Solicitor General's office are still pending. We'll be talking about that. The oil debate, the latest plans by MPs. Some have said they are going to petition the European Parliament, the UK government, and the House of Commons as a lower chamber of their parliament over what they regard as impunity by the Ugandan government and tallow oil. We'll talk about tallow, a little bit more about oil. Tallow farming down, selling 2/3 of their shares to Total and Sinok. Sinok also says they want to talk to government about an oil refinery. They're ready to put down 1.5 billion shillings. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the buses. Buses were supposed to start on March the 1st. We still do not know whether they will be able to run. We'll talk about the FOC activities as well, the rallies. Should they continue, should they not? Our guests tonight, Hon Bernard Atiku, Ayivu County MP from the Forum for Democratic Change political party. You're most welcome, Hon Atiku.
Thank you very much. Good evening, listener.
We're also joined by Mr. Nicholas Opio, a legal consultant at Akijul, also a very well-known commentator on social and political issues. You're most welcome, Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Edmond, and good evening to all the listeners.
We also expect to be joined by Dr.David Mushabe from the Mushabe and Munungu, Munungu and Company Advocates. Nicholas, talk to us about this PAC report. Parliament disposed of it. What two ministers have been resigned who are implicated, but Mushabe, the central bank governor, very well respected man with strong credentials that predate this government, is the one that the PAC report said should be punished. Should this gentleman be punished? Actually, should he leave his job?
Well, thank you very much, Edmond. That things were done improperly by the ministers concerned, the presidency, the Governor Bank of Uganda, is now unquestionable that the payments to the Harbour Group of companies were improperly made, both in terms of value and in terms of process. That is something we agree on, and that is something that PAC in its report also underlined. It is also something that government agrees on, because the statement of the Deputy Leader of Government Business, the Honorable Moses Ali, admits to the same, that Cabinet associates itself in totality with the report of PAC. So the fact that some loss has been incurred, that some impropriety payments were made is now a given, and you see, we must applaud the work of Parliament in that regard. It's good, they've done a good job, and I think for the first time PAC has done a report that was signed onto by all the members of the committee, irrespective of their inclinations. But I've got to point out a couple of things that I think are very concerning to me. I do think that Parliament, in many senses, has overstepped its boundaries, and you can understand why. I mean, everybody is annoyed that the work, the things that were done in payment of Harbour Group of Companies was grossly wrong. So in that sense, I think there's an agreement. But that Parliament has gone beyond its mandate is now very clear, and you see, you can appreciate why, because these things are actually glaringly bad. Because Parliament just recently amended the Constitution. In that Constitution, Parliament apportioned itself powers and responsibilities. Parliament can only remove a person from office in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. Parliament has no power to suspend a minister. It has no power to suspend a civil servant. At best, it can only recommend actions against them to the president. Because in regard to the governor central bank, we must all know that the governor has a 5-year contract. So if we purportedly, using our own powers, dismiss him, we actually risk losing more money because he will sue the government of Uganda. The powers to remove the governor of Bank of Uganda is exclusively left to the president, because Article 161 clause 5 is very clear
in the constitution
of the constitution,
not in another subsidiary law.
So if I can read it for you, it's very, even if it's in a subsidiary law, this one takes precedent.
Right.
It is the overriding law. It says that the governor, the deputy governor, and any other member of the board that governs Bank of Uganda,
yes,
may only be removed from office by the president for inability to perform the functions of his or her office arising from infirmity of the body or mind, B, for misbehavior or misconduct, and lastly for incompetence. So Parliament does not have the mandate whatsoever under this constitution, which they made themselves, to remove the governor, Bank of Uganda. So I think that the expressions of Parliament could have been made in the heat of the moment, could have been made in the face of the fact that the things that were done were glaringly bad. But that does not make it legal, because Parliament does not have the powers to remove the governor, Bank of Uganda. If we remove him on the basis of that ground, then we risk losing more money. In fact, what should have been done is that the conscience of the governor, Bank of Uganda, if he's a man of conscience, he should actually ask himself, do I still deserve to be in this position, given the loss that I've incurred in this country, given the mess that I've gotten myself involved into, given the, in fact, for me, I think that the governor, Bank of Uganda, must resign on his own volition. If he refuses to resign, I do think that organs of the state, for example, the DPP, must open criminal proceedings against the governor, Bank of Uganda, because there is a criminal offense of causing financial loss.
Well, but he was acting. The governor does not own the money that he keeps in the central bank. He owns it by proxy. It's basically he only keeps it on behalf of the government. He runs the treasury. And now someone keeps something with you and he comes to ask for it using procedures that are normal. You cannot.
The custody of that money is governed by particular laws.
So did he break any laws?
The president of the
when he got the present money.
He did. Which in my view, it should be in criminal. I mean, in a criminal court.
Which laws did he break?
He caused financial loss to this country.
No, it's not. He appropriated the president to cause financial loss.
He appropriated money. He gave money to the president. Because you see, the thing is that the constitution provides that the governor, Bank of Uganda, or the Bank of Uganda, must be independent, shielded from any influence of any authority.
Let's look at the specific act. The president goes to the central bank governor, asks for money, and the central bank governor gives it to him. Did he break any law? Was there any procedure that he breached?
For as long as loss was incurred, for as long as financial loss was incurred to this country, for as long as money was paid out or given to the president in violation of the set rules and standards in the act, then he has committed an offense. So there are two options. He should either seek his own conscience and resign, or actually we explore the possibilities of charging him for a criminal offense of causing financial loss.
Hon Atiku, what's your view on this matter?
Yeah, I think Nicholas has given us his legal view, but as a legislator and also as somebody who knows what it means to interpret these laws, I'll agree with him to a certain extent. One is that Parliament has got exclusive rights in performance of its duties or responsibilities. And among these is to put the executive to check. So I think in my lifetime I've lived to see Parliament discharge this responsibility or duty in this country, and we should be proud that actually this is a working Parliament which takes into account its constitutional obligation. That aside, the rules of the game are very clear, or clearly set in the Constitution. Actually, each and every public officer is bound by this Constitution, is bound to use this Constitution, is bound to use it as its or his or her Bible in discharge of the roles and duties of that office.
Yes.
Be it the governor, the president, the members of Parliament,
right?
People like Nicholas here, whoever is a citizen of this country and has got an obligation or undertaking to do, or has been given an opportunity to serve this country. So when you come down to this specific aspect where there was an impropriety or illegal action taken in the discharge of the duties or responsibilities of the governor of Uganda, Bank of Uganda, I think this is where we should come in. What is supposed to be the norm? If I'm to ask Nicholas here to tell us how resources of this country are supposed to be spent.
How money from the central bank specifically is supposed to be
from
drawn.
the treasury, let's say.
Who signs the check? What are the signatures?
Who is mandated to dip hands or to have the keys to the treasury? And what are the rules that govern the opening of the safe in the treasury? So I think that's where Parliament is questioning, and questioning through the variable or the organ in place, that is the PAC, the Public Accounts Committee. And the questions were, when Mushabe, the governor, Bank of Uganda, was deciding to say Pasaja Balaba and the Harbour Group get 142 billion, with whom did they sit? Because there's a committee that sits to approve.
There is a board.
Exactly.
There's a board, yeah.
Handedly. But in this aspect, according to the report, Mushabe sat alone. So really, this is open secret. It is common sense that there was an error.
I do agree.
There may be a possibility that the board sanctioned this, in which case it's not Mushabe alone.
I do agree with him, okay, that Parliament has the exclusive mandate to check the excesses of
within the Constitution.
But must do so within the Constitution.
True.
So therefore, Parliament has no powers to recommend the removal
I haven't finished.
of the back
So
of the government.
these are issues. These are, the report which was presented to Parliament was discussed and, even scrutinized until they arrived at certain recommendations. And in their recommendation to Parliament, they were like, I think there was an illegal act by the Bank of the governor Bank of Uganda.
Yes.
Because according to the procedures in accessing monies from Treasury, the board should have sat and approved this money.
All right.
But in this aspect, he did it alone, and we recommend that Mushabe steps aside.
All right. Okay.
And I think, really, I don't know, maybe it could be the language, but all decisions that are taken at Parliament are not final.
All right.
They must be subjected to the interpretation of the law or the Constitution.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think, to now be the Speaker to write to the President that
I give you a
Parliament has resolved that Mushabe really does not deserve to be in that office, because constitutionally that mandate is for the President.
Yeah.
So I think there is still room.
They can use their leverage to appeal to the President if he doesn't act.
So the role of Parliament is merely advisory. They cannot begin to say, we have said remove him, so he should go.
Exactly. Right.
So advise the executive. And if they have done that, that's perfectly okay. But I'll give you another example in the PAC report that points to Parliament overstepping its powers.
Yes.
They are recommending actions against the judge, former Solicitor General,
Right.
Justice Billy Kanyamura.
Yes.
We know the processes for disciplining a judge. They are recommending actions against the current acting Solicitor General, Madam Harriet Luabi.
Yes.
Brilliant lawyer. I think that the procedures for disciplining such officers are very clear in the law, and Parliament cannot discipline them in the way it seeks to do.
All right, listeners, this is the Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight we're reviewing the work with Hon Bernard Atiku, Member of Parliament for Ayivu County in West Nile, comes from the FDC party, and Mr. Nicholas will be a legal consultant and well-known commentator on social and political issues. You can send a text message to 7197. That is Spectrum. Message, question or comment, send it to 7197. Let's talk about the oil debate. Nicholas, yesterday it emerged that some members of Parliament would like to petition the European Parliament, the government of the UK, and the House of Commons, which is the lower house of Parliament. They have a two-tier parliament, over what they call impunity by the Ugandan government. Some people think they should forget about it and debate the oil laws that have been taken to them, the bills.
Well, but you see, the thing is, Parliament has, like me and you, got the freedom and the right to petition anybody. As long as you think that person can offer you a remedy. I think the reactions of in fact, I've got that letter that was written to the Speaker of the House of Commons. I've got
the one the President, which linked to the President.
It was penned down on February 22nd.
It's to you as well.
I'm not going to tell you how it is. We shall find out. But the fact is, everyone has a right to petition anybody,
right,
for as long as that person can offer you a remedy. I think what is, for me, sickening is the reaction of the president.
Yes.
That goes to points to you very clearly his mindset. This oil thing is mine. It is my hand. I went and got this animal. It is mine. It is mine. Therefore, decisions in respect of the oil industry are now being taken personally by the president. Forget about institutions. Forget about the minister, Irene Maloney. No. She's a lapdog. She was just being sent to go and back and sign. Decisions in the oil industry has now, in my view, deteriorated into a personal decision of the president. The president is now warning people that if anybody attempts to censure Maloney, Engineer
There's
Maloney,
a problem. He's going to
shut down. You know, the president disregarded parliamentary recommendations and resolutions and ordered the signing of this agreement. He went and even rebuked the same parliament, the same people who were signing these resolutions, were the same ones clapping at his speech. So issues of the oil industry is now a personal matter of the president. And for me, that is where the problem is. That the oil resource is not a President Museveni resource, it's a resource for this country and must be managed in accordance with the aspirations and wishes of our people. Because the president only has executive powers. There are limits to that. The president cannot become the minister for oil. He cannot become the commissioner for oil exploration. For me, that is sickening. And
but he can put himself.
And the MPs as
was president and minister for finance at some stage.
That was Obote. We are now in a different government that claims to be democratic. So let's abide by the rules of what we claim, and not begin to justify actions by the actions of Amin and Obote. Secondly, the president of this country has told you several times, when we are amending the constitution to return to multi-party, that he is doing so to satisfy donors. He listened not to Ugandans, but to foreign governments and foreign donors. So what better way to call him to order than to ask the people that he listens to?
Yeah.
Because if Hillary Clinton calls him and says, you forget about this bill, they will do so. He will do so. If donors call him and say, no, you return to multi-party politics, he will do so. So I think that the MPs are within their order, are in order to petition anybody. If they want me to sign that petition, let them bring it here now. I'm going to sign it. The people of this country need a proper governance and management structure for the oil industry.
But they might want you to tell them who wrote that letter. You just told us you have a copy.
I am not going to do so. I don't have the permission of that person to disclose his name or her name. But I can tell you the person is a member of the NRM and is in parliament. Okay? He's perfectly within his right.
You won't tell us whether he wears glasses or he doesn't?
No, I'm not going to tell you. He wears a suit.
Go on.
At least I can tell you that.
Hon Atiku, you think it's in order for these people to petition the UK, or should they not just simply concentrate on the laws, the bills that have been sent to them?
I think I'll agree with Nicholas on this point. One is the fact that actually the president is very aware that actually this member has got his full rights, because Uganda did not start when Museveni came on board.
There was a fundamental change, though. You can't discount that.
And at the same time,
that change is now being
when the fundamental change,
you want to ask for another fundamental change?
There are things which he himself has appended signatures to. There are international protocols, there are bilateral protocols, there are multilateral protocols in regard to so many things. And I'm sure this member was not a fool, not first of all have considered these issues. And if Nicholas is saying he's in possession of such a letter, who knows? There was a legal advice behind the scenes. But that aside,
it didn't come from me. At least I can say.
It's all right.
That aside,
go on.
We as human beings, should be able to enjoy our rights without interfering.
But it could be economic sabotage. The president has told you he's going to charge this man.
Yeah, the law is very clear, by the way, and I don't say he shouldn't stop to pursue his quest in putting one to order if there's a breach. And I think Nicholas agrees with me that if anybody
you can take him
having a criminal mind, you can take him to court.
You see, the president is behaving like a cat that has grabbed the rat. You know, when a cat grabs the rat,
what happened?
Another cat is coming. He's making, that's exactly how he's behaving.
On behalf of the people of Uganda,
So
CEO, isn't it?
It's our cards, not
Go
his
on.
cards.
it's really a situation where the president is fully aware that no crime has been committed. He's trying to scare around people, and at one time, this will come to pass.
But why should they censor Muloni, the minister? Why should they? She's a good woman. She's
Of course, the act she committed was in breach of parliamentary.
she's on top of the president.
Yes, that the president appoints her.
You
but
see,
I mean,
I have made
this is first way. It comes down to the ministers who have resigned.
Yes.
And the immediate example I can give you is the Makubuya and
The lady.
Saida Bumba case.
Yes.
They obeyed executive decisions, but when time came for
they
accountability,
insist
they
there is-
had to take political responsibilities.
All right, we have to go.
Let's make this one point before.
Engineer Muloni, when our time comes, must take the political
I have
responsibility.
made this
for
point
attaining her
before.
signature.
I've made this point before that in company law, once a company is now indebted and you want to sue the company to recover, and the shareholders have nothing, you do what they call lifting the veil. I think the time has come for people in this country to lift the veil and begin to examine the role of the presidency and the president in all these corruption scandals.
We have to go for a break. We'll be back. Do stay tuned to Radio 1.
Promotion kutoka MTN. We send million shillings every day for 90 days. SMS win to 175.
Win, everybody. It is time to win lots of money. And all your heart to this Sukun SMS. Big up MTN for this promotion.
Chino Chifufu.
Win 10 million shillings every day for 90 days. Simply SMS WIN to 175 to play and win. MTN Sukuma SMS.
Terms and conditions apply.
MTN. Everywhere you go. John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back to Spectrum on Radio 1, and tonight we are reviewing the week. Our guest is Hon Bernard Atiku, Ayivu County MP, also from the Forum for Democratic Change, and Mr. Nicholas Opio, legal consultant at Akijele, commentator on social and political issues. We've been talking about the PAC report, spoken about the oil debate. The PAC report, very well known issue, 169 billion shillings paid out. We'll talk a little bit more about oil before we move to the wheels. Buses in Kampala, should they come, or, well, what should we do with the buses that have already arrived and the others that are on the way? Nicholas Talo gave 2/3 of its shares to Sinok, the Chinese company, and Total for 2.9 billion shillings. 7 trillion Uganda shillings. Some people have argued, rightly or wrongly, that Uganda should have gone direct to these bigger boys, Sinok and Total, directly and sold them shares. Does that argument hold any water?
Let me just paint a picture for you of the legal framework for the governance of the oil and gas sector in Uganda. The obtaining legal regime are completely archaic and outdated. They were enacted in 1985 when massive exploration in the scale now that we know is going to happen in this country were not envisaged. So we are operating in a legal regime that is extremely weak, that puts our country at a huge disadvantage. Now, in order to address that inadequacy in our legal framework for governance and management of the oil and gas sector, the government rightfully passed in 2008 the oil and gas policy. Now, the oil and gas policy expressly requires that the state should enact new laws that take into account emerging concerns in the oil and gas sector, scientific and environmental concerns that will arise as a result of exploration of oil. Now, the government of Uganda in 2008 that passed this policy does not table this bill, does not show any sign of tabling that bill until Parliament, in a very heated debate, pushes government and threatens government that if you don't pass these laws, no more dealing in this sector. Now, what does that point? It points to two things, in my view, that we have been transacting business in the oil industry blindly within a legal framework that puts our country in a huge disadvantage. That's precisely the reason why, when there's a tax arbitration problem, we had to go to the UK. Believe me, we are put at a huge disadvantage by doing that. Secondly, it points also to the fact that the pressure that was being exerted by oil industries, oil barons, in Tala Oil and the rest, on our government came to bear, and we bore down to those pressures. In my view, there could have been money exchanging hands. It could have been just a country being powerless in the face of powerful multinational oil companies. So we are in a complete mess. Now, we even do not stop just at that. We go ahead and begin to sign production sharing agreements in the face of a parliamentary moratorium, in the absence of a good law that will protect the interests of this country. That, in my view, smacks of ill intention, smacks of ill motive. Now, these laws are then introduced in Parliament. The question that is critical for us to ask is, will the new laws, if they are passed by this Parliament, govern the agreements that were signed before these laws were passed?
It could be made retrospective.
It cannot. No. It would be unconstitutional. So we have entered into agreements that, in my view, puts our country in a huge disadvantage, and the country is bound to get less than what it could have got. But also, more importantly, that we are moving into, we do seem to move at a pace at which activities in the oil industry is faster than the law. Okay? Which is unusual.
Right.
The ordinary unusual means would have been that the laws are passed, no matter the economic urgency, no matter the pressure, no matter the risk this country had in losing these oil companies.
It's like having a train without the rail.
Without the rail, you buy, So it's completely, in my view, mismanaged because of certain personal interests, or perhaps because of how powerless we were in the face of important oil companies. The critical point also that I want to make is that because of the absence of a framework and expertise, new and human resource to deal with this industry, we find ourselves dealing or transacting with the middleman in Talo Oil.
Well, but these are people who took a risk. Heritage took a risk. They sold to Talo. Now Talo is moving to this next, selling to the bigger boys.
It's the nature of the game. But as a country, you do not want a middleman to take those risks, because then a middleman will put you at a big disadvantage.
It's not really a middleman. The president said at one time Shell wanted to come in, but then eventually they lost interest for some reason. Shell is one of the big oil players on the globe.
I want to believe the president, but I just can't, because Shell is just going into exploration now in Mozambique.
Yes.
Okay?
They are not an exploration.
They are not an exploration company. They're just going into exploration right now in Mozambique.
Yes.
So he was dealing with middlemen, people who are coming to explore and then begin to sell to others, and make billions of shillings.
Well, the industry seems to be going through a shift. At some stage, they thought the small companies were doing the exploration, wherever it is. Now the big ones are realizing there's a lot of money in it, and they're beginning to invest in it as well. Well, Honorable Atiku, there are too many variables here. Honorable Atiku, what's your view?
I think my brother Nicholas has said it all, but in a layman's language, I would say we're in a situation of pata potea.
What's that? I'll speak French. What is that?
The situation, if you have gone down there, you'll get guys who are playing cards, gamblers.
Yes.
It's like we're in a gambling jungle.
Gambling den.
Where, you go to a river, you don't know whether it has fish or it doesn't have fish. And yet, you are aware that actually in the river is a habitat for
crocodiles,
fish, crocodile, whatever. But at least you get some fish.
Yes.
So that is exactly what is happening. The laws that are supposed to regulate, that are supposed to govern the operations, the dealings in this sector, are still having loopholes. As a matter of fact.
Yes.
And these were brought, of course, there has been a blame game. There's some foreign influence, the American embassy is doing ABCD and what. But I think all this is for the good of the country. Yeah. Why do we have partners? Why do the Americans have their embassies here? Why does the president accredit or sign the accreditation documents of these diplomats? So I think all these interests are in good faith for the wananchi, for the country where these resources are. And I think before anything is done, and in any case, for Uganda's case, we should have moved as slow as possible, because there's no hurry. First, this is a sector which is new in the economic arena of this country.
Yes.
We don't have the capacity in terms of human resource, the capacity in terms of infrastructure, the capacity in terms of financial management, the capacity in terms of legal issues, and many other things.
Yes.
So really it would have been in the interest of this country to say, especially the executive, the chief executive, the president, to say, we have got a resource anticipated, and to the public, it's not new. It's not Museveni who discovered oil. This has been there. The geographical studies show.
It was done in 1923.
Exactly, that there is a possibility of Uganda having gold, oil, and other minerals. So really, what the president would have done, first and foremost, is to invest, to say, let our government invest in the education sector, to build capacity in those issues I've mentioned, financial, legal, and infrastructure, so that tomorrow the sons and daughters of the soil of Uganda will be engaged in this, will put to check whoever. Of course, first of all, I would have loved
we shall be laborers.
Uganda hiring the knowledge that it doesn't have to come and translate it or to use it and say, you have played your part, here's your package, go. This is our resource. That is the right thing to do. And I think the countries where oil is succeeding, like Norway, recently in Africa, I think it's Ghana.
Ghana is still very young. You can't really
say. But these are things.
But you can talk about other resources, diamonds in Botswana, for
instance. These are issues which have been critical, which leaders must take into account, so that
policies.
Exactly. Those policies. The policies will come later when you have already built capacity, and then the policies will actually be generated by the resource you have built, the human resource you have built, capacity you have built, and then eventually, we say, let's go and strike. How do we attack?
All right.
From which angles? Okay. What do we get? Is it a frog? Is it a crocodile? Is it a tilapia? Is it a emputa? And then we put it on table and we cut and say,
and see who
but as of now, you can see already money is exchanging hands. But tell us, Uganda is just getting the offcuts.
Unless we get the sniff of it, some money, you already paid $100 million plus.
I mean, what is $100 million when we are in the current situation?
Is better than
there are issues which you can say that we are at a loss.
All right.
We needed to move as slow as possible, because Uganda will not end tomorrow when Museveni leaves or when I leave.
The president said some Chinese minister came here.
Oil is running out.
20 years we use this resource.
Now, okay, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight we're reviewing the week. You can send your contribution via text. What you do is type the word Spectrum in your phone browser. Send it 7197. Spectrum, message, question or comment, send it 7197. From oil to buses. Hon Bernard Atiku, this bus was supposed to begin on the 1st of March, which is only next week. They don't seem to be ready to run because of the framework. What are we going to do about these buses? Should we have them running and then sort ourselves out later? What should we do about this?
You know, we're operating in a country where I say it's a pata potea. First and foremost, the initiation of the process of
anything goes. That's
yeah. So anybody initiates an idea, forgets about that there's an authority in place, or liaises with an individual in the authority, and then they crack a deal. And tomorrow you hear there's a bus company which is supposed to provide transport service. But when the real situation comes, like now the 500 buses are supposed to be on the streets, then you begin saying, but I mean, Ugandans are not fools.
But
People are watching.
let's get this a little bit clear. There was an interview in one of the newspapers today, published today. One of the executives, David Bangana, he said that there were bids that were placed in the newspapers, including the East African, by the city authority. Several companies bidded for it, and then they kept sifting them until they ended up with one. Is it because of a short memory, or we don't follow things?
That's yet to be.
And he said that they are not a monopoly. They only have the north and the two sides, and they only have the east and the west. The north and south are not yet outsourced.
I don't want to believe that because, of course, I don't know whether newspapers are an authority. But
this is the man from Pioneer Bus.
I think should happen, and what should have happened is that this process should have been handled in any way. Why should somebody bring buses and you park them when you know the mess in which our transport system is in? These are brand new buses, executive, and all of us would have loved maybe
to travel in them.
Even would have recommended that all MPs will use that means to move around vehicles. Yeah, instead of save taxpayers that money. So really, there are issues. As I said, we as Ugandans have not. I don't know, from 1986, we have started to disregard the norms of managing a society, the rules of the game.
Edmond, on this matter of the buses, I've got to come out very
Incidentally, we've told an authority you're a shareholder in Pioneer.
There has been rumor that I am a shareholder in one of the companies that is associated with this bus. I want to state it here very clearly that I have absolutely no connection with the Pioneer Bus Company. There could perhaps be another person of a similar name,
maybe a share certificate is on its way,
but it is not in my name, because if it's supposed to come to me, I must have signed for it. I have not invested any of my little earnings in any bus business. All my earnings have been invested in human right to work and pro bono services for the poor. So I'm not a part of Pioneer Bus Company. Please don't associate me with that kind of mess.
Oh. Such clean buses, I saw them today.
Yes.
But
more importantly, the idea that the public transport system in this country needed to be made better, yesterday, we all agree on it, that the Kampala city transport compared to other East African countries. I've been to Rwanda, for example, organized transport system. This kind of buses are there. That our transport system is in a mess. But the question is the question of governance, the question of the management of the process. Because I can tell you this on record here, that I have seen the statement of the people of Pioneer Bus Company before Parliament. The norms of the people who are involved in that business are in-laws, relatives of the first family.
Yes.
And the Prime Minister.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong with it. But if you're the only guy doing business in town and getting big deals, then that becomes a problem.
Why?
That becomes a problem.
What's the problem?
So the question of transparency, the question of how we arrived at that decision to actually require these buses to come needs to be examined. Not whether these buses should hit the street. We will all say that, because that's a wrong premise. That's a wrong question to ask. Would all want these buses to begin running? Would all want to be boarding these buses? Yesterday. But the question is that what we must interrogate is the governance question surrounding this whole process. For me, I think that there's a bigger corruption scandal that needs to be unearthed in this bus, in this Kampala bus process. Because
government guarantees, loan guarantees from government.
Government guarantees, loan guarantees, agreements signed, details of which we do not know, never made public. You know, the agreements have been there's a default. I mean, the ED of Kampala, admitted before Parliament that this bus company has breached its part of the agreement. That's KCC,
well, it's not on all players.
KCC has also breached. So I think for this question, we've got to thank the Honorable Namboza for doing a fantastic job in pointing out the problem. I think it's a governance problem. It's a question of management of public resources, and also it's a question of involvement of other players in this industry.
All right, let's talk about the A4C activities. Government says people want a change of power illegally. This government was elected not too long ago, less than 2 years in power. A4C wants them out of power. What's the problem with these rallies? Hon Bernard Atiku, you come from the FDC. Why do you want change so fast?
You see,
we already have a fundamental change.
Everything that is happening in this country that has collided with the powers that be is you being on the side of the law. If you're a law-abiding citizen in this country, you will never exist. You will just fizzle out.
Are you inciting people to disobey the law?
And I mean, you have seen it all.
Go on.
Anything that is wrongly done is what is upheld. You see police brutalizing people, doing this, infringing on people's rights, and a minister stands on the floor of parliament to defend the police action and denies the brutality of the police.
There was no violence. They only tapped a woman's window.
Exactly. And was it yesterday, the other day? Actually, not the other day, but it happened. A woman was shot. A pregnant woman was shot in the stomach.
Yeah, last year.
By God's grace, she survived.
She survived miraculously.
And these are issues which have been happening.
The minister should ask the Honorable Kizito
Really?
for telling a lie to the president.
The issues of whether activities of FOC are premised to overthrow this government or they intended to cause havoc is another issue. The rules of the game, as I said earlier on, are enshrined in the Constitution. The Police Act is very clear.
Yes.
So, looking at those rules of the game, where was the breach? And if that can be analyzed properly, then we can come to a conclusion. And in any case, the Constitution states how a government can be overthrown. It's very clear.
Yes.
See, Edmond, if I may. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I know a sitting government, the government in chair or in power,
yes,
will automatically be scared. That's why even they're scared of us in opposition, because an opposition party is a potential candidate to overthrow a government, a sitting government.
Yes.
So that fear is there, natural. But if we were to agree in principle that the rules of the game are clearly stated, and in any case, if through a demonstration, first of all, a demonstration is not to overthrow a government. A demonstration is to express.
Oh, we've seen it happen in Tunisia.
Automatically, and the Constitution says the power belongs to the people.
So we can have an Arab Spring here.
Exactly. It will still be
and police should look on.
It will still be within the law.
Police should
as long as
come with the police ban.
If all Ugandans agree today, let me say this: if all Ugandans agree today that the Constitution empowers us, that let's all march and besiege Kampala.
Yes.
Constitutionally, they will be right to overtake this government.
But we might not have enough soldiers to handle it.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's help you.
Edmond,
perspective.
A country's human rights record is judged on how that country treats its minority. Whether it's a sexual minority, whether it is a political minority, in the case of FOC, that is the basis for which a country's compliance with human rights obligation is judged. It is not judged by how they massage the majority. It's not judged by how the NRM and its government massages its majority. No. So I think the minister has got to realize that our country's human rights record will be judged by how we treat our minorities, whatever the minority, being it sexual, be it a political minority, or a tribal minority, or an ethnic minority. So that is the basis of judgment of how you comply with this argument. Then, secondly, is it a crime for somebody to want to overthrow government constitutionally? No. In fact, I can stand on the rooftop of this building and believe that I want to overthrow this government. For as long as I want to overthrow it constitutionally, that cannot amount to a crime. That cannot justify the brutality in repressing my views. No. Thirdly, the Constitution allows people the powers, the rights, the freedom to demonstrate. Whatever the kind of demonstrations, whether I want to run naked, as long as I have a right to demonstrate. That the question is that in exercising that right, which by no means is not absolute, do we abide by the rule of the game? What is apparent is that the FOC has in many instances tried very much to abide by these rules. But we cannot deny the fact also that certain elements within that process of demonstration have acted against the law, have pelted stones at police.
And by the way,
let me just conclude.
Yes.
But also, the police's reaction to some of these unlawful elements have been excessive. What is the point in firing a live bullet at a person throwing a stone at a policeman? A policeman is presumed to be a trained person.
Yes.
Somebody who is trained, somebody who has a higher duty than me and you in protecting people's lives. there is absolutely no justification for killing a mosquito with a hammer. That's exactly what the police is doing.
You see, the events that have been unfolding and the activities that have taken place during these rallies tell a lot. And at many times, actually, the leaders of FOC have come out to say some elements are being planted to disorganize them. Actually, the people who pelt the police are presumed to be coming from the other side.
Yes.
And we have seen this in this country. We have seen black mambas besieging the Temple of Justice. We have seen different unexplained colors within the security doing different things, and people having guns from different directions in different sections. And I think there's a lot of loophole. You cannot tell who is a policeman, who is not a policeman. You cannot tell who is a soldier and who is not a soldier. So really, in a certain government, you cannot say that things are normal. So really, these allegations need to be put in perspective. The government needs to put its house in order. If we have a police, the police should be clearly identified in uniform. And the colors of the uniform, when somebody sees a police officer in white, you know this is a traffic officer.
Yeah.
When you see another one in this other,
the blue one is Marines.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know this is Marines. When you see these ones with the VIP,
we have several uniforms actually in the police.
Those should be clearly explained. And in our setting, this is not what has been happening. People have been pelting stones, and we have had cases like in this particular case, which brought a lot of discussion.
Yes.
A man was spotted smashing the windscreen of Nabila's car.
He was only wiping it with his hand. They said there's no bad.
One who has been clearly identified. He has smashed
a diplomat.
Listen,
said the man there was no
Message's car was vandalized here at Mulago roundabout. The man is for promotional training in Masindi. So what kind of
maybe
he's in Masindi.
Alright, let's move forward. Let's talk about Somalia. Yesterday, an international conference that aimed to bring lasting peace in Somalia, attended by Hillary Clinton, took place in London at the Lancaster House. Several leaders attended: Mwai Kibaki, Meles Zenawi, and Somali leaders in the diaspora and other people. Do we expect to see peace in Somalia after many, many years, 21 years?
Yeah, first I don't want to be optimistic or to be
pessimistic.
Pessimistic.
You don't want to be optimistic. Okay.
Because it has taken time for really Somalia to reorganize itself, because it takes the people themselves. When you question Al-Shabaab, you begin wondering whether Al-Shabaab is from a foreign land or they're Somalis.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't want my country to be in that kind of state. And really,
the only state in that state, the only country in the world in that state.
Yeah, the efforts that are being put by world leaders in putting this nation to order, to me, is welcome, and is something all peace-loving people should support, including our own. I'm grateful that we are at least in a foreign activity. This is something I can say I support, because we have got our sons and daughters who are sacrificing there, and for a good cause. But coming to the Lancaster House conference in London, the people who are
the same place where we seem to have got our independence from.
Exactly. The people who were involved, I think I would be a little bit critical on the person who organized the meeting, because we would have expected a lot of support from Britain in the fight against the
Well, they've increased the mandate.
Would expect the African countries who are in attendance to contribute in terms of forces, in terms of military hardware.
Kenya has gone in there.
Exactly. Kenya of late came there because its economy was at risk. The tourism sector was exactly. So it shouldn't be for personal interest. It should be for the good of humanity in Africa. And I think that's the spirit.
Nicholas.
Edmond, the solutions to Somalia's problems is not going to be a foreign policy of the UK government. No. The solution to the Somalia problem lies not only with the Somalis themselves, but also with the African people who are neighboring Somalia.
Yes.
Because all of us know that the biggest cause of tension in Somalia is the fight between the Christian Somalia and the Muslim part of Somalia.
Yes.
Now the Western view of Somalia is that they wanted Somalia free of Islamic control. Okay? So you
creating another contention.
So you now see that a part of the other Somalia, like Baidoa, Somaliland, I guess here, are peaceful because they are Christian leaning areas.
Okay, so yes.
In the areas of Muslim dominance, where Muslim rule was or has been, yes, exactly, is where the problem is. So I think we need to accept that a solution for Somalia's problem should be a solution that envisages a coexistence between a Christian Somalia and a Muslim Somalia. Because in the absence of that, you're never going to have peace, you're going to have fighting all the time. It's going to be a Palestinian-Israel conflict.
Nigeria?
I don't know about Nigeria, but I'm telling you it's going to be a Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
As we go, we have to go because our time is up. How do the clans play into it? Because they have a lot of clans. They speak one language, just like Rwanda, Hutu, Tutsi. In Somalia, they speak just one language, all of them. But there are numerous clans, and clan heads seem to have held a lot of sway. How does that play into the religious balance?
No, it does. It does. It's a question of faith. It's a question of a social system to which you come around.
Yeah.
I think that dismissing cultural leaders, dismissing religious leaders, dismissing the Christian and Muslim is actually a mistake. I think what we need to be working at is agreeing on a solution where these two systems all exist.
Special fares to the US, London, China and India with extra baggage allowance on selected flights. To book your flight, contact your local travel agent or call us on 041-7800-900 or book online at QatarAirways.com/UG. Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
Terms and conditions apply. It used to be that when we paid our bills, we had both feet on that ground for ages in a long line of strangers. But now, we pay bills instantly with our feet relaxed in front of the TV while we watch football with friends. You don't have to queue anymore. Pay your utility bills with Airtel Money. A simple, secure